There was a time when she hardly noticed you. Your calls, messages, and attention were just background noise. But now, as she looks at her phone and scrolls through old messages, she feels something has changed. There's a sense of emptiness where you used to be. She didn't expect it to feel this way. She thought she was making the right choice. But with loss, it often doesn't feel real until it's too late. Today, we'll talk about why women usually realize their loss only after you've left. Understanding this can help you become a man she always remembers. Let's get started. The first point is the false belief that things will last forever. Most people don't realize how important things are until they lose them. When something is always there, it's easy to take it for granted. She thought you would always be around, but that's just how people are. They get used to things and think they will never change. This belief is where they make a mistake. She didn't think twice about your presence because she thought she had all the time in the world, but time is never promised, and neither is a man who knows his worth when you finally walk away, not to punish, not to manipulate, but because you refuse to be unappreciated, she is left to confront a truth. She never expected you were not as permanent as she assumed, and that's when it hits her. At first, she brushes it off, thinking you'll return like you always did. She convinces herself that this is just another cycle, that you'll reach out eventually, but days turn into weeks and silence fills the space where you once existed. She scrolls through old messages, replays, memories, and suddenly everything she took for granted is now what she longs for the most. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You could leave life right now, let that determine what you do, say, and think." The Stoic man understands this not just about life, but about relationships. You are not a fixture in someone's world, you are a choice, and if they fail to see your value, you have the power to remove yourself with dignity. A man who understands this truth doesn't hold on tightly. He moves confidently, knowing that appreciation often comes in the quiet moments when he steps away. There may come a time when she realizes she didn't deserve his presence, his good morning texts, or his patience. These were choices he made, not obligations. Now she feels the loss of what she once took for granted. A wise person doesn't wait for thanks or recognition. He knows his worth isn't defined by others. He leaves gracefully, understanding that those who truly appreciate him will value him before he is gone, not afterwards. The silent void. You leave, life continues, and she keeps herself busy with distractions. However, she gradually feels the weight of your absence. She misses the little things, your voice, your presence, and how you made her feel secure. In that quiet moment, the truth of your absence hits her. At first, she might feel relieved. Perhaps she thought she needed some space and wanted a change. But over time, things become clearer. Illusions, dates with new people feel different. The attention from others doesn't feel the same. You made her feel safe, valued, and understood, which was special. Now she feels a sense of emptiness, realizing that no one else can evoke the same feelings in her. The true feeling of loss happens in quiet moments, not during dramatic times. Many men don't let this happen. They stick around, hoping to remind her of what she had before she can notice the emptiness. They might send one last message looking for closure that won't come and try to show her their value. But the strongest men understand something deeper. People recognize true value when it's absent, not when it's present. People leave not to play games or manipulate, but to show self-respect. Women understand that nothing affects them more than realizing they've lost a truly special man. Seneca teaches us that real strength comes from knowing when to hold back. While a weak person seeks attention and wants to stand out, A strong person understands that sometimes silence speaks volumes. They allow silence to convey its message, allowing feelings of emptiness and wanting to teach important lessons. These are much stronger than words. A man who knows his value doesn't seek recognition. He believes that time will show the truth. When that happens, she will understand it deeply, not just as a passing thought, but as a strong realization. However, by that time, it might already be too late. Take a moment to think about this. Have you ever noticed the impact of your absence? Have you seen how things change when you step back? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to take a moment to think about this message, just leave the line as a comment. People often recognize true value when it's absent. Let's explore how many of you appreciate the power of walking away. This relates to the third idea, which is the law of diminishing returns. The law of diminishing returns means that as you keep increasing one input in a process while keeping others the same, the extra output you get from that input will eventually start to decrease. In simple terms, after a certain point, adding more of something won't help you as much as think about the last time you truly appreciated something you often take for granted, like a warm hug, a thoughtful text in the morning, or simply knowing someone is always there for you. We tend to value things less when we have them all the time. It's just how we are. This also happens in relationships. When you are always there, texting, calling, or showing up, your presence starts to feel normal, and it's not seen as special anymore. It's not that you're not important, it's just that being so familiar can make people complacent. They assume you will always be there, but when you step back, things change. Suddenly they start to realize they miss the attention they once took for granted. The conversations she used to brush off feel like a void in her day. The small moments she barely acknowledged, the way you remembered her favorite coffee order, the way you listened when she vented about her day, start to echo in her mind. She may not even understand why, but something feels off. She expected you to be there, and now you're not. That's the paradox of human desire. We rarely treasure something until it's slipping away. This is why distance can be more powerful than presence. When something is constant, we assume it will always be there, but when it's taken away, we are forced to recognize what it truly means. This is why people reminisce about old loves. People often regret the loss of their friendships and suddenly yearn for the things they once overlooked. Seneca once said, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." But let's be honest, gratitude often arrives too late. We appreciate the warmth of the sun only after a long winter. We long for silence after being surrounded by endless noise, and we recognize the depth of someone's presence only when it becomes a memory. A Stoic man understands this truth. He does not demand appreciation. He does not. Instead of seeking approval, he creates a situation where appreciation naturally happens. This involves knowing when to give, when to step back, and when to distance himself. Doing this not as a trick or a game, but out of self-respect. Respected men don't seek attention. Their presence is palpable, even when they're not present. He knows that love and desire can't be forced, only inspired. Sometimes, the best lesson for someone is to experience life without him. Only then will they realize the emptiness left behind. She might try to distract herself or convince herself she's okay, but deep down she may start to question whether she took him for granted or underestimated his worth. The person she thought would always be there now feels like a loss. This is when she realizes that some things and people are hard to replace. Number 4. Emotional dependence. Exposed dependence. Exposed. She believed she was independent and didn't need you, but now, in quiet moments, she realizes otherwise. When the excitement of her distractions fades and the world isn't pulling her in every direction, she feels an unexpected loss. It's not just about missing you, it's about realizing that the emotional stability you provided was something she took for granted. You weren't just another man, you were her calm during tough times, making her feel safe even if she never said it. Now that you've left, she finds herself alone with thoughts she can't shake. This makes her question everything. Did she really want to push you away, or did she think you would always be there? Was she chasing a false idea of something better, believing she had endless choices? If that were true, then why does the silence feel so overwhelming now? Why does she find herself reaching for her phone, pausing before sending a message she knows she shouldn't send? She's starting to realize something new. Your presence wasn't just comfortable, it was rare. Marcus Aurelius once said that loss is just change, and change is part of life's nature. Stoicism teaches us to accept change, but not everyone can do this. When you walked away, you accepted life's flow, knowing that sometimes letting go is necessary for self-respect. She, on the other hand, is just starting to deal with this change. She believed she was in control, but now she sees that control was an illusion. You weren't desperate to stay, you were okay with leaving. This is why she feels your absence so deeply. She thought she could replace you, believing that another man or some attention could fill the void you left. But it's not that easy when it comes to someone of true value. A person with a strong presence doesn't just create an empty space, they leave behind a lasting memory that stays with others. As time goes by, she realizes that she didn't just lose anyone, she lost you. There are no simple lessons or philosophies to make this easier. There are no comforting words that will change the truth she needs to face. She has to deal with it just like you did when you learned to understand yourself before others could define you. Epicurus said that a person is not truly free unless they can control themselves. A Stoic person does not beg, plead, or seek approval. They are present without losing their dignity. When they leave, they do so without bitterness, knowing their silence can teach lessons that words cannot. She is learning this now. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your silence was more impactful than your words? Was leaving more about finding yourself than punishing someone? Share your thoughts in the comments. What did you relate to the most? If you just want to leave a mark, write this in the comments. A person of presence leaves a lasting impression. Let's continue the discussion about number 5, the surprise comeback. The surprising comeback of curiosity. Curiosity is a strong and important force. When something is always there, we often ignore it. But when it disappears, we begin to contemplate the other person's actions, their companions, and whether they have moved on. Once she begins to ask those questions, she loses control and is responding to your absence. You understand that you weren't just a background figure in her life. You played an important role in her experiences. Now that you are gone, your loss is felt deeply in the silence and emptiness you've created. At first, she might not see it. She keeps herself busy with distractions, laughter, and attention from others. But real connection is hard to replace. No amount of shallow interactions can match the deep feeling of safety she had with you. Over time, she starts to realize this, and it bothers her. This shows the impact of emotional distance. It's not about ignoring someone. It's about becoming someone they can't ignore. A Stoic man knows that being mysterious can attract others, but he understands that true strength comes from being self-sufficient. The greatest enigma lies in a man who thrives in his own space, free from external constraints. A lot of men think being there is enough, but knowing when to step back has a bigger impact. Consider it. How many times have you realized the true value of something only after it was gone, when you could no longer access it at will, when you were left to sit with your own thoughts, wishing you had appreciated it more when it was there. That exactly what happens when a man who once gave his energy freely suddenly withdraws it, not in bitterness, not in pettiness, but in quiet confidence, in the unshaken certainty that his worth does not depend on her recognition. That kind of man doesn't plead, doesn't convince, doesn't wait around hoping for a change of heart. He simply steps away and lets time do its work. And that's when she feels it, the absence, the void, the questions that won't go away. Was he really that easy to replace? Why isn't he trying to win me back? What if I was wrong about him? This is the paradox of emotional detachment. It is not coldness, it is control. It is the understanding that your presence should be a gift, not a given. And when that gift is no longer offered, it forces appreciation in a way that words never could. Number 6. The impact of your absence is not always a single, large event. The ripple effect of your absence. Your absence creates a strong feeling in her life. At first, it's just the small changes in her daily routine that she didn't notice before. She misses the way you made her laugh, the sound of your voice, and the comfort of knowing you were always there, even if she doesn't always realize it. She notices your absence now, and it's uncomfortable. She thought she could easily move on, but with time, things started to feel different. She goes through her day like normal, but there's an emptiness that she can't explain. The inside jokes that used to fill the quiet moments are now just silence. She used to overlook the little things, like when you would reach for her hand in a crowd, or how your presence made her feel more secure. Now the absence of those moments makes them feel particularly noticeable. You didn't make her stay, you just walked away, and that choice changed everything in a way she didn't expect. People often don't realize how much they value something until it's not there anymore, and women are no different, no matter how strong or confident they appear. Security, stability, and feeling valued don't just vanish from your heart quickly. She might have believed she was in control by pushing others away, but true power comes from being able to let go without being afraid. Epictetus once said that what really counts is not what happens to you, but how you respond to it. A silent man doesn't try to get attention or ask to be missed. Instead, he lives in a way that makes his absence felt. Once this happens, he doesn't have to seek validation. Sometimes silence says more than words ever can. When you take a step back, it gives her time to understand what she lost. The late-night texts she used to avoid now make her wonder why her phone isn't buzzing anymore. You used to be an option for her, but now she feels uncertain. You didn't need to prove your worth to her, as life is doing that for you. Now it's important for you to stand firm. Instead of expressing anger or making grand gestures to demonstrate your value, simply acknowledge your absence. When a woman truly begins to miss you, it's not because you're still trying to connect. Your absence creates a space she can't ignore when you're not around. By the time she realizes what she lost, she will also understand something else that you always knew. If you've made it this far, take a moment to think. Have you ever felt the impact of being silent and stepping away? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts, or just say, "Hi." Real power is in letting go. In the comments, you're engaged. M helps spread this message, and who knows, your insight might resonate with someone who needs to hear it today. Number 7, social proof works against social proof, works against her. She thought she was the prize, but now she's seeing something different. Other people see your value. You're not broken, not waiting around for her. You're thriving. And the reality she once ignored is now impossible to deny. You were never dependent on her. She was just a part of your world. not the center of it. She believed you would chase that, you would linger in her orbit, hoping for another chance. But instead you vanished from her life like a ghost, not in anger, not in desperation, just in quiet, unshakable confidence. And that's when the weight of her choices starts pressing down on her. This is where doubt begins to creep in. Did she misjudge you? Did she assume you'd crumble without her? Because right now it's looking like you're doing better than ever, and that realization hits harder than any argument. You can argue or make urgent requests, but often silence speaks louder than words. Not having you around is no longer a comfort. It feels like a sadness she didn't expect. A strong man doesn't ask for attention or seek approval, he just exists. Marcus Aurelius said to stop wasting time arguing about what a good person is, just be one. When you work on being stronger, wiser, and more disciplined, people notice, including her. Your worth doesn't decrease when you step back. It often becomes more obvious. Time apart makes her see what she used to overlook. Other men may pay attention to her, but they can't match your confidence and presence. Those who pursue her don't have the same value as the man who confidently walked away. This is where it hurts, because she sees that she never really had power over you. The control she believed she had was just a fantasy that broke when you recognized your own value without needing her approval. This is the moment she experiences sadness. You didn't find strength by pleading or arguing with her. Instead, you became strong when you moved on and succeeded on your own. Your true power comes not from showing her she was wrong, but from realizing that you were always good enough, whether or not she is in your life. 8 regrets are delayed. Regret is delayed. Teacher's regret doesn't come on suddenly. It starts slowly, like a quiet thought that maybe she made a mistake. Then it gets stronger. She might wonder if she misjudged you, moved too quickly, or let go of something special that she can't get back. At first, she tells herself that leaving was the right choice. She keeps busy to feel free, but her feelings come back when she least expects it, like on quiet nights when she remembers you. This is the irony of loss. It teaches her about distance. Now she sees you in a different way. The things she used to worry about don't seem as important now. The times she ignored the little things you did are now more meaningful. The way you listened when she talked, your calm presence, and the small gestures that once felt ordinary now stand out compared to what she has now. It's only when you're not there that she sees how much you mattered. But by the time she realizes this, you've already moved on. That's why leaving with dignity is your strongest advantage. A man who clings, chases, or begs for attention makes himself less important. In contrast, a man who moves on and accepts that nothing lasts becomes memorable. When you step back and stop giving your energy, you allow her to feel the impact of her choices. It is in that distance that desire grows. The Stoics understood this deeply, as Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. It is not theirs to guide you. A man who understands his worth does not wait for someone to appreciate him. He knows his value with or without recognition. When you stop looking back, you step into your true power. You become the man she remembers. Not because you begged for her attention, but because you walked away and never looked back. And that's when it happens, when the silence is louder than words, when she starts to wonder if she let go of the one man who truly understood her. But by then, the story has already changed, because you are no longer standing still, waiting for her to notice. You are already gone. Have you ever walked away from someone who only recognized your value after you were gone? Have you ever felt the shift when silence spoke louder than words? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Or if this message resonates with you, simply type, "I know my worth." Let's see. How many of us understand the power of moving forward? Number 9, you become the standard. She moves on, at least that's what she tells herself. She convinces herself that life continues, that she'll meet someone new, that time will erase whatever feelings she had for you. And for a while it seems like she's right. She's distracted, entertained, and surrounded by options. But then something shifts the reality. It gradually comes together for her, like a puzzle with missing pieces she only just noticed. She starts to understand how rare it is to find someone like you. At first, she thinks she'll be okay, convincing herself there are always new and better options. But deep down, she begins to see that you are different. You acted with confidence and always thought before you responded. You made her feel safe both physically and emotionally, allowing her to be herself without worrying about what you wanted. Wonder about your position or understand unclear messages. You were always steady and reliable. She meets new people, hoping to feel better, but something seems wrong. The thrill of getting new attention doesn't quite fix things. Conversations with new guys feel shallow. They either seem too eager or too uninterested, too emotional or too distant. She understands how unusual it is to find a man who is both strong and calm, someone who can lead without needing approval and be attentive without being too much. This thought troubles her. She continues to search for that same feeling and presence, but it's hard to find. What she had with you was more than just attraction or enjoyment. It involved safety, respect, and a deeper bond. The more she searches, the more she questions if she might have already met the best man, someone truly valuable. Never begs to be recognized. He doesn't chase, he doesn't plead, and he doesn't try to prove himself. He simply exists as a force of stability, strength, and purpose, like a rock standing firm while the storm passes. He remains unmoved by external validation. Seneca once said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. The Stoic man understands this, and so does she eventually. At first, she believed that ending things with you was her choice. Now she sees it was actually her loss. When a man acts with respect and stays focused, he leaves a lasting impression that time can't change. Absence brings clarity. She believed that being apart would help her forget you. Instead, it made her realize how clear her feelings are for you. She now understands that you weren't just another choice. You were special. The kind of man who doesn't need to remind anyone of his worth because his deeds, his presence, and his absence speak for themselves, and by then, it's too late. Number 10, the power of staying, the importance of staying away. The key lesson is this: don't go back to a place where you were only valued for being gone. You don't earn respect by leaving and coming back as soon as people realize you're missing. You earn respect by moving on and showing that your value doesn't rely on whether others notice you. The moment you decide to walk away, not out of spite but out of self-respect, you shift the balance. By the time she realizes what she lost, you've already evolved beyond the version of yourself she once knew. That's the beauty of walking away, not as some manipulative game to trigger regret, but as a necessary step towards self-growth. You don't disappear to make her miss you. You disappear because you've recognized that staying where you weren't valued was a waste of your potential, and once that realization sets in, there is no going back. She may eventually wake up to what she had, but by then you'll be out of reach, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you've outgrown the need for her validation. The obstacle is the way, as the Stoics say. Every setback, every rejection, every moment of pain is not something to run from. It is something to absorb, to learn from, to use as fuel for your transformation. There is no greater revenge than success. But even revenge is an illusion. The real goal is to become so grounded, so focused, so complete within yourself that you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Think about it. How often do you see that when a man stops pursuing someone and instead focuses on his own life and goals, things change? That's when she realizes it's not magic. It's just how people behave. People tend to appreciate things that are hard to get rather than what is always available. A man who is happy and confident on his own and doesn't need others' approval is very beautiful. True strength comes from finding inner peace. Walking away is not about trying to control others or make a statement, but about living a fulfilling life that makes going back impossible. You don't just move on, you grow beyond the situation. Your presence matters, and if someone thinks you'll always be there, they may underestimate you. This isn't necessarily due to malice, it's just how people naturally behave. Sometimes we tend to overlook the resources that are always at our disposal, but when you step back and stop making yourself available, things change. This absence can make her realize what she missed, and she may start to regret not appreciating you. The key point is that you aren't leaving to teach her a lesson. You're leaving because you've learnt it yourself. You've realized that seeking approval from others lowers your self-worth, so trying to prove your value is pointless. When a man respects himself, he doesn't need to seek praise. Instead, he gracefully exits situations where he feels undervalued. This is the essence of emotional detachment. Your strength lies not in making someone see what they lost, but in changing into someone they can't overlook. Your silence carries more weight than any words or arguments. With time, the truth will come out, and when it does, you won't need to wait anymore. Remember this, you are not a fallback option. You are important. You don't just wait for others to notice you. You know your worth and move forward with confidence. Real strength comes from respecting yourself, not from trying to win over those who don't appreciate you. In the long run, the men who succeed are those who don't rely on others for approval. They walk away with self-respect and focus on their personal growth, becoming stronger, wiser, and more determined. This creates a strong presence that lasts even after they leave. Don't be someone who waits around. Strive to thrive. When you recognize your own value, the right people will appreciate you, or they will regret not doing so. If this message resonated with you, please like the video. It helps more men discover this message and find their strength. I'd love to hear from you in the comments about what insight you gained from this. Have you ever experienced something similar? Be yourself and let's start chatting. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel for more content on self-improvement, relationships, and stoicism. The journey to being your best self is ongoing. Also, watch the suggested videos on the screen to learn more and become a confident, influential man even when he's away. See you next time. Stay strong and focused. Remember, a person who knows their value doesn't need to show it to anyone.